Few films have left as profound an impact on both cinema and pop culture as Jaws. Directed by the young Steven Spielberg, this landmark thriller redefined suspense, revolutionized Hollywood's business model, and set the stage for the summer blockbuster phenomenon. Beyond its financial success and cultural imprint, however, Jaws is a masterclass in crafting tension through the principle of less is more. Spielberg's choice to minimize the shark's presence on screen wasn't just an artistic decision, but a technical necessity that resulted in one of the most terrifying and immersive viewing experiences ever put to film. This essay will explore how Jaws exemplifies the power of suggestion, the crucial role of John Williams' iconic score, the importance of character dynamics, the film's revolutionary approach to the blockbuster model and its practical effects, all elements that make it one of the most timeless and greatest films ever made. One of the most memorable aspects of Jaws is how little we actually see the shark throughout the majority of the film. Spielberg's original intention was to show the shark way more frequently, but constant technical malfunctions with the mechanical shark forced him to adjust. This became a blessing in disguise. By keeping the shark hidden, Spielberg intensified the sense of lurking danger. The true terror of Jaws is not in its monster's appearance, but in the fear of what's beneath the surface. The audience's imagination fills the blanks, often creating more terrifying image than any special effects could muster. The result is a palpable tension that permeates every scene that sets it in or near the water. Early attacks, such as the infamous opening scene where Chrissy Watkins is pulled violently underwater, are accomplished with no visual of the shark itself. Instead, Spielberg focuses on the victim's visceral terror, letting the audience experience the horror secondhand. The water becomes a haunted space, and the shark's presence, though unseen, is constantly felt. The absence of the creature's visual appearance makes the moments when it finally does emerge all the more horrifying. When the shark does appear in the film's second half, the payoff is immense. Spielberg builds the suspense slowly, keeping the audience guessing and on edge. By withholding the shark, he creates an aura of mystery and dread around it, transforming the mechanical prop into something that feels real, deadly, and unstoppable. This technique taps into primal fears that everyone has, proving that the scariest monsters are often the ones we can't fully see or understand. This level of restraint in a film's pacing and reveals is something many horror and thriller directors aspire to but rarely achieve. The decision to show less of the shark was also a practical one, which pushed Spielberg to embrace creative solutions. Instead of elaborate special effects, he relied on underwater point-of-view shots, shadows, and ripples to suggest the shark's presence. The combination of these techniques keeps the viewer in a state of constant anxiety, with every shift in the water becoming a potential death sentence, and this mastery of tension remains one of the film's greatest achievements. The role of music in Jaws cannot be understated, and John Williams' score is arguably as famous as the film and the shark itself. His simple yet iconic two-note motif is synonymous with danger, tension, and terror. Played on a tuba, these two notes mimic the slow, deliberate approach of a predator in the water, creating an auditory signal that builds anxiety within the audience. What makes this score so effective is its simplicity. Much like Spielberg's decision to show the shark as little as possible, Williams crafts a minimalistic soundscape that evokes maximum emotional impact. From the moment the first notes are heard, viewers know something terrible is about to happen. Even if they don't see the shark, Williams' score in this way becomes the shark's substitute. It fills the gaps left by the lack of visual effects and amplifies the tension in scenes where otherwise not much would be happening. The music tells the audience that the shark is near, heightening the sense of impending doom and making every encounter feel even more intense. The brilliance of Williams' score extends beyond the famous motif though, with the rest of the film's soundtrack also playing a pivotal role in setting the emotional tone of the movie. During moments of calm, Williams provides lighter, more adventurous cues, such as these sequences on the boat as the trio of Brody, Quint, and Hopper embark on their hunt. This contrast between the ominous shark theme and the more triumphant musical pieces reflects the balance between man and nature, as well as the false sense of security that the characters, as well as the audience, feel before the shark attacks again. One of the most effective uses of the score is how it trains the audience to associate certain sounds with the shark's presence. This kind of auditory conditioning is rare in cinema, but Jaws pulls it off masterfully. As the movie progresses, viewers begin to feel anxious the moment they hear those infamous notes. Even if no shark is immediately visible, it is a psychological trick that deepens the immersion, proving once again that less can indeed be more when it comes to building suspense. Although Jaws is primarily remembered for its thrilling shark attacks and iconic two-note motif, the strength of the film lies just as much in its characters and their dynamic relationships. Chief Martin Brody, Quint, and Matt Hooper form the backbone of the movie, with each bringing a unique personality and worldview that drives the plot forward. The differences not only make them compelling characters individually, but also allow for deep, meaningful interactions that elevate the film above the typical creature feature. The tension between them is just as gripping as the tension surrounding the shark itself. Brody, played by Roy Schneider, is the quintessential everyman. He is the small-town sheriff, a family man, and someone who is deeply afraid of the water. His fear and hesitation make him a relatable and sympathetic hero. Throughout the film, we witness Brody grow from a man who avoids danger into one who must face it head-on. His fear of the ocean is a metaphor for his larger fear of confronting the unknown, where in many ways, Brody represents the audience. He's terrified, but knows there's no other choice but to fight. His journey from reluctant hero to shark slayer provides a strong emotional anchor for the film. In contrast, Robert Shaw's Quint is a hardened, obsessive fisherman who views the shark not just as a threat, but as a challenge to be conquered. Quint's infamous USS Indianapolis monologue is a standout moment in the film, offering a chilling glimpse into his psyche. This speech gives depth to what might have otherwise been a one-dimensional character. Quint's fixation on hunting the shark is rooted in trauma, and his grim determination foreshadows his eventual demise. Shaw's performance is nothing short of mesmerizing, with the monologue becoming one of the most iconic scenes in cinema. Then there's Richard Dreyfuss's Hooper, the young, enthusiastic marine biologist whose scientific approach contrasts sharply with Quint's experience-based methods. Hooper brings an intellectual edge to the team, often acting as a mediator between the hot-headed Quint and the anxious Brody. His knowledge of shark adds a layer of authenticity to the film, grounding the story in reality and making the threat feel even more tangible. Together, these three characters create a dynamic trio that adds heart and depth to the Jaws film, making their battle against the shark as much about their internal struggles as it is about survival. The interplay between Brody, Quint, and Hooper is the film's emotional core, and Spielberg takes great care in crafting these relationships. Their contrasting perspectives on how to handle the shark, as well as their growing respect for one another, are what makes the third act so compelling and so timeless. In the end, it's not just about a battle between a man and a beast, but a test of character, willpower, and resilience. Jaws didn't just change the way thrillers were made, it transformed the entire film industry. When the film was released in 1975, the concept of a summer blockbuster, as we know, just didn't exist back then. Studios typically released their major films during the holiday season, but Spielberg broke that film mold, premiering it in the middle of summer and forever altering the cinematic landscape. The film's immense success, grossing over $470 million worldwide, set a new standard for how movies were distributed and marketed. It showed Hollywood that big-budget, high-concept films could dominate the box office during the summer months. One of the ways that Jaws revolutionized the industry was through its groundbreaking marketing campaign. Universal Pictures pioneered the use of television advertising to promote the film, something that was relatively unheard of at the time. With its striking poster featuring a massive shark emerging from the depths towards an unsuspecting swimmer, paired with the haunting tagline, "You'll never go in the water again," the marketing played a significant role in generating buzz. The decision to open Jaws in theaters nationwide simultaneously, rather than gradually, was also a game changer, establishing the wide release model that studios continue to follow even today. Beyond its box office performance, Jaws set the stage for the modern franchise and merchandising era. Spielberg's film wasn't just a movie, it became a brand. From t-shirts and toys to the recognizable theme music, Jaws extended far beyond the theater. This commercial aspect helped solidify its status as a cultural phenomenon, a formula that would be replicated in future blockbuster films like Star Wars and Indiana Jones. The creation of a summer tentpole release cycle can be directly traced back to the monumental success of Jaws, which proved that well-crafted genre films could become massive hits. Additionally, Jaws shifted the public's perception of the director as an auteur capable of carrying a film's vision from start to finish. Spielberg's meticulous attention to detail, his ability to create tension, and his masterful pacing all contributed to the film's success, establishing him as one of Hollywood's most promising and eventually legendary filmmakers. The film industry took note, and directors began to gain more recognition and control over their projects, where in this way Jaws not only influenced the business side of filmmaking, but also cemented the idea that a strong directorial vision could define a blockbuster. While Jaws is often credited for its minimal use of the shark, the practical effects behind the scenes were groundbreaking for their time. The mechanical shark, affectionately named Bruce, after Spielberg's lawyer, was an ambitious undertaking that presented constant challenges for the filmmakers, and despite the problems it caused, the shark itself eventually became an iconic figure in cinematic history, with its design and functionality pushing the boundaries of what was possible in the film industry during the 70s. The practical effects crew had to work tirelessly to ensure Bruce appeared lifelike even when the shark malfunctioned. Though the initial plan involved showing the shark frequently, the technical difficulties forced the team to focus on creating tension through indirect means. Underwater shots, floating barrels, and ripples on the surface became stand-ins for the shark's presence. By necessity, Jaws became a lesson in how practical effects don't always need to be front and center for maximum impact. Sometimes, what's unseen is more terrifying than what is. When the shark finally does appear in full, the practical effects are undeniably effective. The shark's sheer size and movement in the water makes it feel genuinely threatening, especially during the climactic battle on the Orca. The scene where the shark attacks Quint or crashes into the boat remains some of the most heart-pounding moments in film history, a testament to the film's practical effects and the team's dedication. The sheer physicality of the shark lends a sense of realism that CGI could not have achieved at the time. The physical nature of the effects also forced the actors to interact with something tangible, enhancing their performances. Unlike today's CGI-heavy films, where actors often work with green screens or motion capture suits, the cast of Jaws had to react to a real, albeit malfunctioning shark. This tangibility added to the authenticity of the performances, particularly during the scenes of panic and terror. The presence of Bruce made the danger feel more immediate, heightening the tension for both the actors and the audience. Steven Spielberg's direction in Jaws is a masterclass in suspense building, and this approach forever changed how tension is created in cinema. Drawing inspiration from Alfred Hitchcock's style, Spielberg uses the idea of suggestion and atmosphere as a critical factor, and it became one of the film's greatest successes. Rather than relying on jump scares or graphic violence, Spielberg focused on creating a sustained feeling of dread, allowing the fear to build slowly. This approach makes the eventual shark attacks even more terrifying because the audience has been kept in a state of anxious anticipation. Spielberg's use of POV shots, especially those that suggest the shark's perspective, is one of the film's most effective techniques, whereas by positioning the camera as though it were the shark, Spielberg places the audience directly into the predator's role, forcing them to become complicit in the terror and death of the characters. These underwater shots, combined with the haunting music, created a feeling of inevitability. Once the camera takes the shark's perspective, viewers know an attack is imminent even if they don't see the shark itself. Perhaps the most impressive aspect of Spielberg's direction in Jaws is his restraint. In an era where many filmmakers would have opted for a more gore or spectacle, Spielberg chose to focus on atmosphere and character. The shark, though the central antagonist, is treated as a force of nature rather than a monster. By humanizing the characters and making their fear feel real, Spielberg made the shark attacks all the more frightening. This level of control and subtlety is what set Jaws apart from the myriad of imitators that followed in its wake. Jaws is much more than a thriller about a killer shark. It's a testament to the power of storytelling, tension building, and innovation in filmmaking. Spielberg's ability to craft a film that terrifies not through spectacle but through suggestion sets a new standard for the horror and thriller genre. By showing less of the shark and focusing on the fear of the unknown, Spielberg creates a deeply immersive experience that continues to resonate with audiences nearly 50 years later. The film's success as a summer blockbuster revolutionized the industry, influencing how movies are made, marketed, and consumed to this day. Its characters, score, and practical effects have all become iconic, leaving a legacy that extends far beyond the horror genre. The cultural impact of Jaws, from its creation of a global fear of sharks to its influence on the summer movie model, is immeasurable. Ultimately, Jaws stands as one of the greatest films ever made because of its masterful use that combines artistry with commercial appeal. It is a film that thrills and terrifies, while also engages on a deeper emotional level, balancing suspense, character development, and spectacle in a way few films have ever matched. Whether you view it as a horror film, an adventure story, or a groundbreaking piece of cinema, Jaws remains a timeless classic that continues to captivate audiences and inspire filmmakers even today.